Okay, look, you got me, Bumblebee movie. I was thoroughly out when it comes to these films. Sure, I've seen literally every one of them and would continue to do so, but I wasn't happy about it. These Bumblebee trailers, though, they look fantastic. And not even for a split second have I wanted to pull my eyes out, which is no faint praise. A big part of that, I feel, is taking these robot designs away from the spindly, crab-faced, monochrome monsters back to something anyone familiar with Generation 1 Transformers will instantly recognize. Unless, of course, you mistake Blitzwing for Starscream in your trailer breakdown. And based on the color scheme alone, this is clearly Starscream, who we'll get back to in a bit. But why would they give Blitzwing the color scheme of Starscream? Now I look like an idiot! Anyways, let's get into all the Transformers that appear in Bumblebee. From what I can tell, they've only gone with G1 characters, with one exception, though there's bound to be some surprises. Or maybe no surprises. No surprises can be a surprise. I'm also going to be mixing in some Generation 1 lore with the movie lore, because there's hints in these trailers that some of the cartoon stuff may carry over, he says, not knowing definitively whether it will. Bumblebee, though, is the appropriate character to start with, since I'm fairly confident the Bumblebee title refers to the Bumblebee character.
Abort mission, boys. Nothing gets past this one.
Because this is a prequel, the design, especially the head and face shield, are recognizable elements from the other films. Except this time around, he's going to change into a Volkswagen instead of a Camaro. Bumblebee is considered, in some incarnations of the cartoons and comics, one of the smallest and weakest of the Autobots. But he's also seen as the smallest and weakest, bravest. This weakness appears to carry over to this new film to some extent, as he's almost constantly on the back foot and getting smashed about. But he doesn't let that stop him, except when he's dropped off a cliff and then he's severely injured. Anyways, that's Bumblebee. He's got a gun and a face shield and a sword that can cut down trees. Good for him. The other Autobot we see in the trailer is Optimus Prime in his G1 form, though the Cybertron version, not the Earth truck version. Optimus Prime, however, began life as Orion Pax, a dock worker injured beyond repair by Megatron, but not so beyond repair that he was beyond repair. He was rebuilt and eventually handed the Matrix of Leadership, and as the new Autobot leader, he was tasked with protecting Cybertron, and does so by fleeing the planet in order to search for a new power source, since the power source of Cybertron was very nearly depleted. Most famously, in Transformers the movie, he was killed in battle. Don't expect that to happen in Bumblebee, because that already happened in Transformers 2, and then he came back almost immediately. Yeah, it's a terrible film. Look, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I know in my last video, some people got very upset that I really kind of put the boot into the Michael Bay films, which is unfair because there are a lot of talented people that work on those, and that work shines through. Just look at the special effects. They're incredible. Also, I don't want my feelings on those movies to be misconstrued, so I'm going to choose my next words very carefully. That being, I hate these films. Even the first one, which I initially didn't hate, I kinda liked it, and it's easily the best of the 5. But the thought of even returning to the first one, after enduring the sheer volume of noise and endless, incomprehensible, tumbling, jagged metal that's supposed to pass as action scenes, and the way they somehow take amazing actors like John Malkovich and Frances McDormand, and they just do nothing with them. Also, I think most of all, I hate the thoroughly unlikable lead characters in Sam Witwicky and whatever Mark Wahlberg's character's name was. You know, what's his face? America Punch, whatever he's called. They are completely intolerable to me as films, and it baffles me that it took this long to make something this coherent. But at the same time, I think it's important that people like what they like. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because if you are into these films, that's great. I don't want to take that away from you. What do I know? I know they're awful. Right, what are we doing? Okay, so Wheeljack. He's going to appear, according to some Wikipedias and not others. He's an Autobot who we last saw in Dark of the Moon. In case you don't recall, which I didn't, he was shot to death and his head came off. Hopefully he looks more like the cartoon version, as opposed to having a face like a replica Doc Brown robot designed solely to terrify children into never wanting to sleep again. Right, so Decepticons. We've got Blitzwing, not Starscream, but we do have Starscream also, I'll get back to that. Blitzwing is traditionally a triple changer, though apparently he won't be in this film. Just a jet. Just a robot and a jet. There's actually a prequel comic currently running that tells of his rivalry with Bumblebee that leads up to the 80s, because they were wrapped up in a Cold War spy event. Blitzwing, though, is an important Transformer to me, because as a child, I had the toy. And to me, that's very... I recognize that Transformer, because I had it.
Who do you think you are, you piece of plastic shit?
Shatter, seen here in red, and voiced by Angela Bassett, is the only one from this lineup that isn't a Generation 1 Transformer. She's flanked by Dropkick, that were traditionally a series of transport drones, who this time around is another triple changer, capable of becoming an AMC Javelin car, and a Super Cobra attack helicopter. Apparently these two will have more personality than previous Decepticons in these movies, which is... I mean, yeah, do that, that's good. Okay, Barricade. You might remember him from the first Transformers, where he's a cop car / Decepticon. You know, the one Bumblebee gets in a fight with. Okay, so there's this cop car we see Bumblebee leap off, with the number plate 5647374, and Barricade normally has the number 643 on the front. See, there's some number overlap there. I mean, that might just be a coincidence, but apparently he is in this movie, so it might not be a coincidence. Endless possibilities. 2 possibilities. Right, so we get a look at Cybertron and a bunch of Transformers there. One of which I'm fairly confident this time is Starscream. Though last time I was also fairly confident and it wasn't Starscream. And I look like a real idiot, ruining my perfect and mistake-free record. But this color scheme though, it does match up with the G1 version. I mean, it looks way more like Starscream than the Starscream from the previous movies, who, as I've mentioned before, looks like a robot who tried to change into a Dorito but got stuck halfway. He might actually be leading the Decepticons, seeing as Megatron crash-landed on Earth like an idiot and was frozen for 1,000 years, like an idiot. Then you remember he was unfrozen and he told everyone in the room that he was Megatron. Megatron! Which is a weird thing to say. When someone normally comes out of a coma, they're not like, I am Alan Davidson! But there's also a chance Starscream isn't leading the Decepticons, seeing as we don't know in what time period this war on Cybertron is happening. Could be the 80s, it could be millions of years in the past. In the cartoon, 4 million years passed between the Autobots crashing on Earth and then waking up. So that remains to be seen. Next to him is what looks like Seekers, a crack unit of Decepticons that are loyal to Starscream with high firepower and detection skills. We see them in Cybertron jet form, and you might recognize them from the very first episode of Transformers from the 80s, or if you're like me, you didn't recognize them, and then you watched the episode out of one eye whilst writing this and went, oh yeah, that's the same guys. I think this entire Cybertron scene might be based off the first episode, the Autobots being beaten down by the Decepticons and then fleeing the planet. I mean, all the pieces are there, including Soundwave. Soundwave is like one of the greatest Transformers ever in design, capabilities, voice. He's just the best. There was even a toy you could get that could play actual cassette tapes. And a mint condition in-box Soundwave will set you back over $2,000 on eBay. And rightly so. If that's not the coolest toy that's ever been invented, then I demand to know what is. Name a cooler toy than Soundwave. Leave it in the comments. Ninja Turtle Blimp. Oh wait, shit, that blimp was awesome. Okay, name another one that's not the turtle blimp. Soundwave ejects Ravage, who we know survives through this movie, only to be despined by Bumblebee. In Transformers, the second one, maybe it's called Darkspark or Last Extinction or something. He's generally an infiltration unit, but sometimes he'll just straight up attack you. He is not without his weaknesses, however. He can be despined, as mentioned, and he also has an aversion to bright light, like a gremlin, I guess. Isn't there some kind of optic setting in these robots that they can adjust automatically when there's a bright light? I mean, look, whatever, he's a robot Jaguar, who am I to ask questions? Will we see more of Soundwave's spies, however? And if so, will they turn into cassette tapes? Also, do they just live in Soundwave's chest most of the time? That doesn't seem ideal. I wouldn't want that. Lastly, we have Shockwave, whom according to Transformers Wiki is referred to as a computer on legs. Are they all computer on... Okay, so he's cold and calculated and considered the Decepticon that could lead them to victory if anything ever happened to Megatron, which it did in the movies because he died, but then he came back. So did Shia LaBeouf when he died. Death is meaningless in this universe. Maybe he'll be the one though leading the Decepticons on Cybertron. We'll see. And that is all the Transformers we know to be appearing in the Bumblebee movie. This film appears to be dedicating more time to fewer individuals with a handful of Transformer background cameos, which could very well be a budgeting thing. But I also think that that was a conscious effort to make these previously interchangeable robots less of that. We also might get some more surprises. I for one would love an Ultra Magnus or a Metroplex. Are there any Transformers though that you want to see? And hey, if you're looking for something to tide you over till this movie, I'd recommend the Cybertron games, because they serve as a prequel to the Generation 1 series. They're also official canon, and 100-fold better than the movies. But again, if you like them, that's fine. But they're still awful. Also, if you want, you can subscribe and bell icon, because there's videos here every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Though if you want updates, you might want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Mr. Sunday Movies, because YouTube is sometimes not good at pushing out videos sometimes. Also, I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That is out every Monday and is liked by many. some. But thanks for watching this. I appreciate it. Take care.